good morning, everyone. Thank you for making time to join us for this interactive session. We all do not have answers. We are trying to crack the code like everyone else world over. But one of the most important things is we are the people charged with ensuring that we are running successful businesses in the hotel industry. And we hold a portal of business development in some of the leading hotels in Nairobi. So therefore, it's very important for us to just put our heads together and just have this conversation and brainstorm. How do we open up the market? How do we run successful businesses? What challenges do we foresee for the destination? And how do we maneuver it? Because bottom line, business has to run. My name is Anne Murungi. I am the Director of Sales and Marketing for Kempinski Hotel Group, Ghana. So over to you, Ronald. Please unmute.
My name is Ronald Oromo. I'm the Director of Sales at Radisson Blu Upper Hill, Nairobi. Glad to join the call. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I've been in interaction with most of you. Thank you for keeping me in this call as well. I'm in charge of Mövenpick. I've been here since the inception of Mövenpick, so I opened the hotel as well. I think one of my key things always has been is opening hotels. So this is my second hotel to open up in the industry. So glad to be on this call as well.
Hello, everyone. Iba Mwangi, Head of Sales for Tribe Hotel and Trademark. Happy to be joining this group and well done for setting this up. It was so needed for us to be able to just talk to each other and understand what's happening in the market, what we foresee, and any challenges that we can be able to assist each other with. So really happy to be part of this group.
Hello, everyone. Liz Tapawa, Director of Sales and Marketing, Hilton Garden Inn, Nairobi Airport. Thank you, Anne, and the Hospitality Consult team for organizing this. And I am looking forward to great sharing.
This is Rosemary, Director of Sales and Marketing for the Serena Group. And I look forward to the conversation as to really how do we get going. I think I can speak not just for myself, but also for my team, that it has been a rather depressing landscape for a while. But as sales and marketing, at the end of the day, we're charged with having to get up, dust off, and get going. So it is an exciting time despite how things are. And I believe this conversation that Anne has started should honestly be a game changer for us as far as Nairobi is concerned. That's how I'd like to look at it. So thanks, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rosemary. The reason for us to just go through this is every economics is about human behavior. And so having seen the human behavioral change due to the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we definitely know that our business is bound to shift. However, I think what is in every of our minds is, when do we feel that the market will recover? Or when do we feel that the market will start easing up for us to be in business? So I'll start off with you, Neoma. What are your thoughts about the market and its recovery?
Well, I think it's going to take a while for the market to recover, given the trends currently that globally everything is slowly opening, which is positive as well. But on the downside is that not everybody is still feeling safe to travel out and all. So the market really, our market especially relies on international travelers a lot, and which is going to take a lot of us all to bring that confidence back to them. To come into the country as well as to start traveling again. Trendly, I see, because we are up this year almost, it's June now almost, and another 6 months would be really like catching up, which I don't think this year would be the great time to bring the train back up to normal. And next year, giving an election year, it might also not be very much on our end as hoteliers. I perceive it probably after next year, we might see a bit of a climb up, but not very in the recent future. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And Ronald, what's running through your mind?
And I echo Nilma's sentiments, and I just want to be more specific. If you look at the business traveler that majority of us depend on, that's our bread and butter. The main source markets were hardest hit, and we're talking about the US, we're talking about UK, we're talking about South Africa. As much as they're easing restrictions now and they're trying to get back to sort of new normal, it will take time for us to have to feel that impact back at home in Nairobi, especially. So it's quite difficult to tell, hey, when are we going to recover? This year, possibly not. If we look at the traction in terms of maybe business travelers starting to come back, and it's going to be on very essential travel, we might start seeing that maybe in August, September, thereabout. But it won't be as much as what we had earlier forecasted in the beginning of the year. So definitely it will take time. It might cross over to next year because even the business travelers are waiting to see what's happening. The country and the destination that I'm traveling to, the hotel that I'm going to stay in, what measures are they put in place? They'll go in online to see the reviews. What are people saying who have stayed there? So their safety is going to be very, very paramount. And then also, we also have to look at what are the cost implications. The airfares may not be cheap. So an organization that struggled 3 months in terms of, because of the COVID pandemic, are they going to be very keen on sending somebody for business travel that is non-essential other than have a Zoom call with the local person in Nairobi? So those are questions that organizations are asking themselves. Hence the reason why I don't see much coming in this year. Perhaps a little bit of next year, but not now.
Okay, all right. Rosemary, I know you hold Portal and you're looking at both leisure and business travel, looking at the various properties that you have. But I'm looking at you from a point of view where you have 3 properties in 3 cities within the region. So you have Nairobi, you have Tanzania, that's Dar es Salaam, and you have Kampala. So you sort of are looking at the market as a region. How do you feel this is panning out? When do you feel that business will start trickling into your city property?
Let me add what you forgot.
Kigali.
Is Kigali, there is Maputo,
And Maputo.
and there is Goma that is coming on board, Goma DRC, that's coming on board soon. What we're looking at is quite big in terms of the business aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what Nilma and Ronald have said. Both from a corporate business perspective as well as a leisure business perspective, looking at all the factors and the signs that are out there, it is definitely looking like things are not going to be rosy. It's going to be very much survival tactics between now and the end of the year as the markets, both locally, regionally, and internationally, begin to take those baby steps towards recovery. But what my feeling at the moment is that 2021 is actually, in my honest opinion, going to be a good year. And that is because given all that has happened for 2020, and looking at the economies of scale, the recovery has to be such that there must be turnarounds that will just get things going back across board. And as a result, I do believe actually 2021 could turn out to be a great year, but it is up to us to make the best of it. But coming back to the immediate, where I choose to be optimistic. By that, what I mean is, you see, if we look at how things are looking, honestly, it is easy to curl up somewhere and die, so to speak. However, as sales and marketing, we can't. We are the ones being the engine of the company, all of us. We are the ones to actually rise up at such a time and look for the opportunities that may not look like they exist, but yet they are there. And I think this is what we really need to look at. Uh, uh, in this pandemic, just like as always has happened, there are opportunities. Now, where are those opportunities? How do we get them? What sectors have arisen as a result of this? How will we be able to capitalize on them? At the moment, the conversation, as you all are aware, is about the local market, about Africa. Where is the opportunity? You know, like for us being a regional brand, an African brand, we have to start looking around ourselves to see what is going to keep us going. But then also, it also means that we then also have to prepare ourselves to reimagine ourselves and our products to fit in with that new. But I choose to be optimistic that we must not just re-engineer ourselves, but look for the opportunities, even where there seems to be no opportunity, so that we can make sure there is business. That's my take. There is business out there. Don't ask me, because at the moment this is the thought process. Don't ask me which business, but I believe very much that there is. And we, honestly, I'm not saying it's big volumes or big numbers or what have you, but there is. It's up to us to choose. Are we going to die or are we going to live? If we're going to die, yes, then there is nothing. There won't be. But if we're going to live, then those opportunities are there. They definitely are, my belief and my take.
Great. Thank you so much, Rosemary. Very insightful thought process there. I think having been in the industry and having been in different markets that are very dynamic in their economies, I like the optimism that Rosemary comes with, and she says that we've got to be resilient. And maybe one question we need to think about that we will discuss later is because we have been in a very resilient market where we've had situations and instances that have taken us down low, and somehow we've recovered over time. Is this one of those? Just have a thought with that, and maybe we can tackle it later. Liz, you're the newest kid on the block in this call. You have a fantastic property near the airport, so travel means a lot to your business. Tell me, what do you feel about it?
First, I must say that there's two sides. One, tourism trade is a very resilient industry. I mean, all things considered, we've been through many other crises, not as big as this one, but quite magnificent. On the other hand, we are, say, quote unquote, lucky that this is not one of those that only affect tourism. This one has affected the globe, has affected all sectors. So in terms of how we are going to adapt and how we are going to move forward, luckily, we have all the other industries doing exactly what we are doing, trying to think about the comeback plan and, moving forward. From an airport hotel point of view, we are basically a transit hotel. And so, again, considering that as we think of coming back, there will be a lot of maybe extra travel restrictions or, too many, additional checks, before you can be allowed to enter the country or even transit through a country. So from a transit point of view, so does it mean maybe we are just wondering as an airport hotel, will people be trying to reduce their transit points? Do we have the advantage of being like the Africa hub for transit? And our source markets, will they change? Will they remain the same? When it comes to the airline segment, will there be major adjustments and reduction in numbers of, let's say, for example, crew traveling on an aircraft because, maybe there'll be minimal service being offered? Those are the things in my mind right now.
Okay. And from what I see, the first industry that looks like it wants to pick up is the airline. So airlines have already started giving schedules, and you can tell that there's a bit of movement picking up. Are you feeling the same from where you sit, Liz? Do you feel that airlines have started engagements yet?
Yeah, airlines are actually preparing to return to the skies. What we don't know is if they will return smaller. And if they return smaller, which means less capacity in terms of passengers and less capacity in terms of crew, then what does that mean for that segment for us? And not just as airport hotels, but even as, all the other models.
Okay. All right. Great. Now, I like the fact that all of us feel that business will peak. Maybe not at the momentum that we expect, but it will peak. Maybe not much of this year, but surely next year will be a sort of good year. And of course, we are looking at 2022 with a bit of concern at the back of our minds because we have elections coming up, but something we do not want to dwell on right now. But I would want to ask, a few studies have been done and a few conversations that have gone on in the industry. Over and over again, there is a feel that the domestic market will be the first to recover. Do we feel that that's the case, and will it have a positive impact on our businesses? Eva, I'll start with you.
I did attend a few Zoom calls that talked about domestic market being the first. For us, where we're situated, our domestic market is not huge. Being a city hotel, most people who are traveling within Kenya tend to want to travel out of Nairobi. However, where we may take advantage of the domestic market as a hotel that's in the area we're in is for the social events. Because they've been put on hold, people are not getting married until the government allows for it. We're finding that people are now coming in, because I'm at work, coming in and booking dates in October, booking dates in November for social events. And that has surprised us. And this could be weddings, we've had birthdays, and that's something that's positive from a domestic market. Yes, in terms of other segments, we haven't seen much movement. But in a big way, domestic will not be able to give us make us get the targets that we need to get to be able to achieve the sort of revenues we need to pay off all the things we're now spending now that we don't have the money. So it'll not sustain us in the long run. Next year, just to add on the comment about 2021, it's surprising, but yes, for us, we've started getting bookings for next year. We're completely surprised. We didn't expect it because I think we were thinking recovery would come back in 2023 because of 2022 being an election year. But yes, we're getting calls and bookings are coming in for 2021, not in a big way. But just the fact that we're getting that is positive.
Great, that's good to hear. How is it for you, Ron? Are you feeling that domestic market could turn around some business for you in the near future?
There's something Rosemary talked about as business leaders, and for you to survive, you have to, when you are thrown in a deep end, the way we are thrown right now, and you're in the murky waters, somehow you have to learn how to swim. You have to develop those muscles to give you the strength. And as Eva has correctly put it, you have for the domestic market the inquiries about social events. But hey, whoever thought of staycations before? It's becoming a new thing and everybody wants to talk about it. It's an opportunity right now. You know, before we were not talking about staycations. You were like, what do you mean I come to stay in the hotel and my house is 3 minutes away? But now that's a new thing. People are coming to think about it. Creativity is building up because we have to survive, as Rosemary said. Hey, bills have to be paid, you know, and we have to think of ways and means of making sure that that revenue comes through. Correctly put, it might not be what we anticipated before, but can it survive? Can we survive this year, the remainder of the year with it? So creativity is going to be very, very important. We have to go out and look for what business domestically can support the city hotel.
Okay. Rosemary, how do you feel about domestic market being the quote and low-hanging fruit for now?
I think I definitely concur with the sentiments put forward. I think firstly we must accept that the domestic market is our key, so to speak. I remember the big lesson that we as the tourism industry learned way back in 2011 as a result of the September 11 attack. That is when the industry woke up to the fact that it is not good to put your eggs in one basket. And the market diversification effort began, whereby we started looking for business from the domestic market. Today, speaking from a Serena perspective, in terms of the leisure market, the domestic market element for us, what at that time, those years, was just about 5% of our business. For Kenya, that is. Today, it actually forms 30%. Now, what I would be looking at doing going forward, because that is so much more leisure business. Now, in terms of especially, excuse me, the city hotels, where the mentality of the local market is, yes, in terms of F&B, in terms of social events, they're happy to support their own. But where is the opportunity now? The opportunity for us lies in being more creative. Staycations, as Ronald says, that was an unknown mentality. Look, after months of being cooped up at home with a curfew and all, it's great to be able to offer those opportunities for people to know, you don't have to get out. Spend your weekend being pampered at Nairobi Serena or Radisson or what have you. Those are the opportunities we need to look at. How do we be creative? How do we come out with things that will make people appreciate their own? You don't have to go to Dubai. I was in a webinar yesterday where we were talking about Africa. Now it's not possible for me to go do some retail therapy in Dubai or wherever. What about where can I go, and what can I do, and so on and so forth. I think we have some fantastic opportunities at hand that will enable us to move things to the next level. One of the things that I would dearly love to see us as an industry do is work more closely together so that we can achieve a common purpose of not just bringing business back, but a common purpose of pushing Agenda Nairobi as an example. What do I mean? I think you all know we are all players. Often, when we are faced with this situation of looking for business, we come out guns blazing, allow me to say, with a lot of rate offers against each other because we have to get a little business, a share of whatever little business that there is. And unfortunately, in many ways, Nairobi does not have some of the advantages, despite being the hub, the East African economic hub. If I compare Nairobi, for example, with Kigali, which has a very focused MICE business strategy with a convention center that is backed by the government, as well as a very focused upmarket leisure market strategy. If I compare that with Nairobi, we have gaps. And that forces us, because of our increased hotel bed capacity in Nairobi, it forces us to have to ensure some guerrilla war tactics in order to survive. Now, nothing wrong with that. We have to. But I believe we have been thrown an opportunity now whereby we can work together and push Agenda Nairobi, where it's not just about the best rate possible, the lowest rate possible, but about the experience, the product that we're coming out with, whether it is from a leisure aspect, whether it is from a leisure aspect, and whether it is from a business aspect. We know. Look, what are we doing right now? We're having a business call. Tomorrow, you will be going out selling a product from a business meeting perspective, whereby half your audience may be remote and half your audience may be in your hotel. So how do we come up with such products and push them out there into the market going forward? I think we have an exciting opportunity to be able to come up with different new experiences that will help us firstly bring in the business into Nairobi, and that we as the recipients can be able to now push into our properties. But for me, the key element is us partnering together in some way where we have some common denominators that will help us be able to come out with our own strategies that will help us be able to recover even faster than if we work within our own, our own little boxes, trying to survive in a very hostile market. That is my take.
I think very, very insightful points there, Rosemary. Thank you so much. I think one of the things that keep playing through my mind, even as I think of what will happen, because bottom line is very little business will start trickling in. And all of us, the owners' expectation, our brands, the first thing they're looking at is we need revenues coming in. So any business that is coming through, we all want it. And one of the things that I keep feeling will happen is airlines have said travel will be expensive. Yes, and but when it comes to hotels, the thing that keeps playing through my mind is that the travelers, the consumer behavior and the consumer pattern will change. That's number one. And number two, the thing that will come first is health and safety. I think the traveler will be looking at first, it's not how much I'm spending, though it's key because, of course, business have had, and people will be looking at where can we save or how can we manage our expenses so that to sort of balance our profitability. So, of course, travel budgets will be looked at. But at the same time, the traveler will be looking at health and safety first. So having that in mind, we expect a few habits to change for the consumer, and the demands will change moving forward. So my question is, Liz, how do we package the new touch points? What are those new touch points we will package for the consumer journey so as to win confidence? What are those things we'll be looking at that we will put in our, in so to speak, our sales pitch, so that we can, first of all, win the confidence and keep the consumer, keep our sort of rates going without focusing on rates and discounts and the conversations that have been there beforehand. Liz.
I think you said already in your question, health and safety. Those improved health and safety standards within our properties will have to be almost on our billboards, as opposed to just being the little e-signature line. As we reopen, and I have already started seeing it, we will see that, when we are going through the pre-qualification processes, there is a new segment requiring you to update the clients about improvements that you have made now that we've been through COVID-19 and they plan to come back to work and they plan to come back and work with you. So that will be priority. And same thing to the new travel protocols, of course, within any airport. So yes, fares will go up, numbers will go down. There'll be very little numbers trickling in at the beginning, but yes, the client will be more keen on the health and safety aspects of the property. But then we cannot forget that we have our lingering monster, security. And then we've got our other bigger monster, elections. And we are coming into just 1 year before elections. So it's really a catch-22, but we can get out of it. 2021 can be a good year, depending on how we position our products.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nilma, I'm going to ask you a rather uncomfortable question. So now that we are looking at airlines are complying with health and safety measures, and therefore it's going to be expensive to travel. Their fares will go up.
Yeah.
We are complying with the same health and safety measures, and you know what it takes at the back end. It's costing the hotel a lot to comply.
Of course. Yeah.
Our rates, are they going to go up? Are we taking our rates up?
That's a catch-22, because obviously the cost of hygiene, staff training, there's a lot more that will play into role. I had this rule that we used to always use when it came to selling Nairobi in general to the domestic market or to the international market. We used to sell security first and then the product. But now tables have turned. You're not going to sell security first. You're going to sell health and safety first, which is staff hygiene, contamination, cleaning. All that is a cost additional to a hotel. As everyone knows that, if you don't keep up to the hygiene that is expected, even with WHO and all, you may not gain even the fraction that you are aiming to get. Especially with social distancing, even if, as we talk about weddings and social events, you can't really take the capacity you are going to take before per square meter. It's going to go in a different mode. The space that used to take about 500 people, you may just be allowed to take 100 people. That's a loss of a lot of revenue. So I think you'll have to be smart in selling, not really raising the rates, but maybe packaging like in a different way, as initially the conversation was, to make the customer feel that you're not making money out of the post-COVID situation. You're actually giving them a package that is enticing to them to actually book you. So it should be added value as opposed to making the customer feel like you are making them pay for the cost of their hygiene. Because hygiene is going to be a main key thing going forward. And obviously, nobody of us are experts in selling post-COVID. We are still in the phase of learning what requirements are and what's happening. It's a new thing to everywhere, to globally as well. As much as we're going to have all the materials about what we are going to do. So I think for us going forward, we would need to smart sell in terms of safety and health, and put that first before the price. The price would be an afterthought to a customer, as long as they feel safe and secure at your property.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you for that, Nilma. I know it was a very dicey question, because then it's all about our strategy. How do we get in? The little business that is trickling in, and we really have to ensure that we've complied with whatever health and safety measures there are. Ronald, what's your take about it?
It's a catch-22, but I think being customer-centric and solution-oriented might be able to help in this situation, where you really have to engage with the client and get to know and understand them. It's not necessarily about bringing the price down, because if you bring it down, that means that you really have to work 3 times harder to bring in more, which you cannot get because of the new measures in place, to be able to at least meet and get your numbers. So it's going to be about, can you be customer-centric? Can you give solutions? Can you package? Can you have a package that the customer is willing to buy for the right price? And emphasizing the fact that health is going to be very, very key. And let me also add that it's not just health and safety of what they see, but also health and safety of staff also. Because the staff members are the ones who engage with them, interact with them, be it in restaurants, be it in room service, be it in housekeeping. Some organizations want to know that, are your staff in good health? Of course, they will not ask one-on-one, but organizations might send out a checklist to just find out the staff members before resuming of business or operations, have they gone through these mandatory tests? So it's a whole package. It starts from the hygiene in place, the surfaces, the public areas, the restaurants, the rooms, and then it also goes to protocols in place. That also has to be met, because they're very observant and they'll see and they take note, right? Especially for a business traveler, where they've come from, you find the certain measures that have been put in place. Perhaps in their mind, the perception is to see something similar replicated to where they're traveling to as a destination. So it's going to be very, very important that all these parameters are also looked into. But what is most important is the packaging, not necessarily the price going down, no.
Okay, all right. Our market is very, it's very relationship based. That a lot of our business comes through the relationships that we keep and maintain with our clients, our direct customers, our corporate institutions. But moving forward, are we going to see direct sales? Are we going to knock on doors? Will it be allowed? Eva, how do you see that turning around, if it will?
It's a very good question. It's actually something when Ronald was talking, I was thinking about. Yes, going to offices was not going to be allowed as it was, or it was difficult enough with security. Even for my team to go out, some places you had to have prior appointments, so sales blitz kind of died down. So now with this, it's even going to be more difficult. It's now, and let me address the point of price.
let's not kid ourselves. There will be a price war. That is going to be real. You can look historically at every time there's been a downturn. When I was out of the country and we had the 2001 September 11th, we didn't want to reduce our rates. However, everyone did. And we didn't want to be empty. We had to. It took us almost 5 years to get back to those level of ADRs that we had at that time. It's a reality. We can't go away from it, but yes, we can be creative and package differently, but just know it's going to happen. Also, the prices will be affected because of the bed capacity that probably will be reduced as hotels close. We will see that price will be affected. But now addressing direct sales, I think this is the time branded hotels will need to look at their, what are they called? The brands who they're affiliated with, or they're franchised with, or they're managed by. They need to push them for channel delivery. They need to look at all channels. So direct sales forms a very big part of Kenyan business. But what about the other segments? We've got the GDS. How is that performing for us? We've got online travel agents. We've got our call centers. We've got our brand websites as opposed to the hotel's own website. If you're a branded hotel, I can see all of us here are, we need to push our brands to be able to deliver on that element, because direct sales will take a hit. And it tends to be the biggest percentage of business in Kenya.
Okay. Interesting points there. Thank you so much, Eva.
Can I add something?
Yes, I was coming to you actually. Tell me.
Oh, great. So just to add on what Eva said, direct sales are going to be the most difficult channel for us to continue with. Yet it has been our backbone for the longest time. But it changes with another challenge. So if we are not doing so many direct sales, does that mean we have to start thinking of restructuring our departments? Because at the end of the day, what numbers do we have, in our departments? And if we are saying we work with our brands, then it means we may have to come up with restructuring, which will become another negative effect post-COVID. So I just thought that I should add that angle for us to think about.
Interesting points there. Yes. So if direct sales is not working, so what happens to our department? And two, I believe for the Nairobi properties, we are looking at about between 38 to 45% of our business coming from the local market, the local bookers. So where will they turn to? How will we still maintain those relationships now that they don't allow us to knock on doors? And also for our staff safety, we are also careful on where we are sending them on a day-to-day basis. Rosemary, what's your thought through about this?
Sales is all about relations. And I think it's part of what we must do. We just have to re-engineer how we're going to do it. One of the things that we're having to have a thought process is for the rest of this year, we're obviously not going to carry out our usual regional or international sales activities in terms of visits and exhibitions and so on. Yet you still must keep in touch with your business suppliers. You must look for new business avenues. So how are you relationally, how are you going to do it? That again is part of the engineering process, if you ask me, whereby in terms of technology, on how to engage and contract business is going to have to be done. I think it calls for relooking at our skills as salespeople in terms of coming from a perspective of one-on-one interactions. How else can we do it? Do I need to be able to improve my online engagement skills? And therefore, if I do, exactly what should I do? Do I need to improve my online marketing, content, and presentations, and so on and so forth. I think that's a conversation we all need to have with ourselves and move from there, because definitely we have to change and adapt as required. That is what I think we need to see what to do and how to do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I think that's very important. It's just thinking of how do we still maintain the engagements and how do we still have conversations and maintain and grow the relationships of the bookers that we have and the clients that we have. And how do we develop new ones? How do we tap into the stealth markets and with the changes, with us not knocking on doors and doing sales blitz and maybe calling for bookers, cocktails, what will happen in all that space. So very interesting thoughts there. I had promised that we're going to do an hour, and I can see our time is just about to get there. So I'll pose a few questions, but I have two last questions to ask. One of the questions is, we've had tough moments in the industry. We've had our down lows to a point that there was literally no travel into the country. And I don't want to mention them because we all know them. We don't want to record our bad times. So is this one of them? Are we going to spring back like we normally do in this destination? Ronald?
Yeah, and yes, we will. We will spring back. And a lot of that comes from the resilience, especially from the citizenry we've seen from past experiences before. And I believe also in terms of this pandemic also, there has to be behavioral change. People will have to behave differently. We've seen the numbers of confirmed cases spiking over the last couple of days. So people have to change in terms of association, taking measures, following the laid down procedures, so that the numbers can be able to be contained. Once the containments come, then we can always see the international traveler having assurance to travel to this particular destination. What the traveler needs is assurance. So if that can be put in place, if people can behave themselves, in fact, that's what the president was talking about the other day, that it's not just about the government doing its part. We as citizens also have to put our part. So if that is done, even if we do it 50, 60%, then we should be able to see a shift and win the confidence of people doing business in Nairobi.
Okay, all right. Nilma, how do you feel? Is this one of those that we are going to spring back like we normally do?
I think we will. I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel always, as we've always done. So I think it will be a longer one, this one, but we will come out of it. I see positive out of it. It will take time. It will not be as fast as we expected, of course. We have to be patient. We cannot control what's going on globally and world. We are all in it together. So it's just not, I think we just have to be vulnerable and be positive about it, because we have to live with it. It's a reality, and I think we will take time, but we will come back.
Liz, how do you feel about it?
It will be progressive. It will be very progressive. Eventually, we will be right about back to where we have ever been, in our best place. But on the immediate, it will be very, very gradual, with a lot of new learning, with a lot of moving the goalposts where necessary, and listening very carefully and watching the rest of the world. Obviously, as I said at the beginning, we are resilient. We will bounce back.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Eva?
Yeah, I agree with everyone. It's going to be a gradual uptake. I don't know if everyone saw the news today that said JKI is opening on the 8th, but it'll open up with restrictions like quarantine. What that means is even people who want to travel, you don't have that many days to be quarantined in a hotel, then do your business and then go back. So definitely domestic will be first. It'll be trajectory of slowly as governments ease on the restrictions they put forward for travelers, then travel will increase. But if governments can drop the restrictions, especially the quarantine part, the recovery will be a bit faster, but still gradual. Because also people are fearful of being in places where they're not sure if they will get ill. So yes, but it will come back. It will come back because that's who we are as humans. We will be able to be resilient enough and say, I want to go and visit somewhere. I need to go and meet someone. We will.
Okay. Rosemary?
I'm positive.
Thank you, Eva. How about you, Rosemary?
I agree. It'll be gradual. It'll be a slow start, definitely. Even with the domestic market, it will be a slow start. But I think that as we gain the confidence of the traveling market, both locally and internationally, as the market looks and sees what measures have been put in place, how are they being handled, and so on and so forth, that is what will help either push the growth quicker or slower. It's a question of how we make sure we're ready, all of us, from government level right down, and how we are handling it, which will help determine how quickly things will be able to get back into a good place. But definitely it'll be gradual. It will be gradual, building up into what I believe would be a good surge for 2021.
Okay, all right. So our final question, it's a very personal question. So what are our fears as the business development leaders of the leading hotels in Kenya? What is that uncomfortable thought that keeps cropping up every so often and it doesn't seem to go away? Ronald, I'll start with you.
For me, it's a price wars. I like the balls that Eva had to just bring it out, because for sure that is going to take place. I like the optimism that Rosemary has, that we need to work together, we need to partner to just make sure that we package ourselves uniquely so that we don't fight each other. But truth be told, there's going to be little. We're talking about business picking gradually. Now, gradually here will mean also there's pressure on us and the teams to go pick that little that is out in the market. So there might be some elements of price wars. That to me is the greatest fear right now, and just trying to work around it, that how best can we be able to manage and contain it. But by going by Rosemary's sentiments, if they can be that partnership, genuine partnerships, to say, hey, let's not fight each other, let's complement each other, then that would be good.
Okay. How about you, Nilma?
I think I echo Ronald as well, because as much as we are all going to be able to take a fair share of what's happening in the market, we all need to also think of each other and basically smart sell, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're all trying to gain the same and you're all fighting each other. We will not be successful. So I think a fair share of being honest and making sure that we are all maximized as opposed to not smart sell would be a key factor to play a role. But I think the biggest fear would be coming out of post-COVID is how to gain back in the market, how to, obviously, even if it's domestic or international, the travelers really need to be reassured. And as much as you can't do direct sale, that connection with your booker is very important. So to keep that going is going to be also a little bit of I wouldn't say a challenge, but there will be some imposements of where you can't really go and knock on the doors. You have to rely maybe on telesales or, online, or even going to Zoom with your clients, which is not the experience we are used to. We always tell the client, come to our doorstep and we take you through the whole experience. Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a task for people to come to your hotel, to show them the experience through your eyes, that what you've done to your property to sell it again. That's going to be a recover process. I think we all need to think of is how you're going to bring back the booker that has been supporting you for years to come back into your doorstep, as opposed to just selling it on the call or on Zoom. It's not the same. The connection is not the same. So that's the constant fear. And of course, yeah, if we're going very digital, you have to start thinking in the digital space.
Yeah.
The old school way of selling is going to not be possible anymore, unfortunately. You have to start thinking of how you're going to put your product in the digital space and how you're going to maximize them. So and digital is a heavy cost, is not just a cost that you can ignore. So that is something that we all need to think of, that going forward, if we are to open our hotel operationals, all of it, we need to start thinking about budgets of how we're going to maximize on digital space.
Great. That's interesting. And that calls for a bit of investment on technology for all the properties. Liz, what fears do you have?
The uncertain length of this pandemic. That is my biggest fear, because ultimately, then it means the entire world is in a recession for a longer time. And obviously, impact on our industry is going to be longer. Whatever plans we are thinking about may have to be re-engineered midway next year, just because the pandemic extended longer than we anticipated. That's my major fear.
Okay, all right. Rosemary?
The point I would like to add to everything that has been said is at the moment my fear is actually how the COVID situation is panning out at the moment in Kenya. That right now is my fear, from the perspective of the numbers are increasing. And more than that, although we do acknowledge that the authorities are handling the situation quite well, we thank God that for the mass testing. But the fact that in the informal sectors, now we're seeing increases in places like Kibera, in places like Madare, and so on. What I now keep asking myself is, what will happen? Will things explode? Does this mean, as being, the comparisons with how things in Wuhan, in Italy, in the UK, what we're seeing in the US now, does that mean this in terms of the pandemic? Despite the fact that we do have to get to the space where we will have to learn how to live with this. It's not going to, just stop. We will have to learn how to live with it and to adapt accordingly. However, my fear is if we're not able to manage the current situation on the ground, despite all good efforts by the authorities, how will that affect our immediate plans? Here we are at the moment getting excited about the possibility of the airspace being opened up soon, the possibility of the travel restrictions, the curfews being reviewed after June 6th. We're getting excited. we're beginning to sort ourselves out in terms of the health and safety and sanitation protocol. We're beginning to think about when can we reopen and get going, which is great and it's necessary. But there is this question in my head of how will we be able to keep positive whilst also addressing this scenario we're seeing. I don't really have the answers. I only have the faith that somehow it will work out for good somehow. But I do have those questions in my head on a continuous basis.
Okay. Thank you. I think very honest opinions there. Our fears are justified, and the same plays through my mind. For me, more than that is we have intellectual property that we have harnessed over the years. I mean, look at how long hospitality industry has been in Kenya for, and how well we've perfected the act even regionally. And suddenly we are looking at cutting numbers. And so at this point where we are downsizing and we are looking at numbers as how business speaks, I'm worried that we are losing a lot of intellectual property that we have invested in over the years. And for me, my second worry is how long will our businesses hold with no revenues coming in? We've seen we've been shocked by some of the properties that have made decisions to shut. And I keep asking, how long can we hold forth? If we are talking of Q1 next year or Q2 next year, if we are looking at the vaccination being the solution for all the destinations to open and travel freely and for business to come back, even in MICE and leisure, how long can our businesses hold with no revenues coming in or without covering even the operating costs? There's a lot of changes happening with the whole COVID issue, and it's new to everyone in the world. So I think it's a matter of keeping observing, seeing how the trends are changing, looking at the decisions that are being made by the governments and the destinations that are key to us. And most importantly, keep having these conversations, because then it helps us sort of put our thoughts together. And I think there's a sense of comfort that we have the same questions running through our minds. I'd love to hear from you what topical issues you'd like us to touch on, and let's keep the conversations going. Thank you so much.